Hello, everybody. My name is Marcus. I'm the VP of Marketing at Conveyor. Excited to talk about customer trust today. So, thank you for joining the webinar. It'll be a little bit before more people start rolling in. Here they come already, but I'm going to share my screen and kick us off. So, it'll still take a second for a few people to roll in, so I'll give them some time. Today, though, we are going to talk about how to sort of AI your customer security reviews, AI your customer trust program. I'm really, really excited that we've got Jessie, who is now at the analyst group, but was formerly at HubSpot, and she really built that program there. And we're going to have a conversation with her. So that will be the most fun part of it. But we'll cover a lot of stuff. I know this is like a security audience, and maybe people don't want to share too much and everything, but I would love to know who's here and just like where you're from and where you work. I think one thing with these webinars is that we get to learn from other people like Jesse at HubSpot, and as much as we can, like the kind of building a community and getting to know people is really, really important. So if you want to go into the chat, no pressure and just tell people, just say where you're dialing in from or say who you are. I'd really appreciate it. And the other thing is, if you have questions as we're going through any of this, would love to just put it in the chat. We'll have time at the end, especially while Jesse is talking, I think. Would love to hear what kind of questions people have. So try it out. Test the chat. There we go. We got a first. Joseph. Awesome. Joseph in Vancouver, Washington. We have a bunch of people in the Pacific Northwest. I've never been to Vancouver, but seems like a beautiful place. But yeah, we've got Chaz, our CEO, is in Oregon. We got a bunch of people in Portland and strong PwC. So Joseph, if you ever want to get lunch with Chaz, the Conveyor founder, you should hit him up. I'm sure he'd love to hang out. Um, Frank, welcome. If there's anybody else, I'd love part of the fun of this, like I said, is like you guys get to kind of connect with each other and meet other people who do the work that you do. So you likely all use Conveyor, care about the same things, deal with the same issues. So hopefully you can, talk to each other. Okay. So while we are, before we talk to Jesse, our special guest here, there's been a bunch of Conveyor updates. And so this is a real quick, in case you missed it. Today we're going to talk about Conveyor's new MCP server. We call it the AI connector because that's just simply what it is, right? It allows you to connect Conveyor to whatever AI assistant you use. We're going to demo that today, help you get set up, just show you what it looks like. But there's so much other good stuff. If you aren't subscribed to the monthly emails that come from Chris, our VP of product, get subscribed. You will know if you get them probably monthly. I think most Conveyor customers do. If you don't, just email Chris or email me. I'm Marcus at Conveyor. Chris is Chris at Conveyor. We'd love to get you on the list. But very cool stuff. Questionnaire return where when a questionnaire gets submitted into Conveyor, it can be completely touchless and go back out the same way it came in. Draft mode and Trust Center. So we make updates to your Trust Center. You can put it in draft mode before you publish it live. Topic preferences. I'll give you one more of my favorites. The SharePoint integration is very cool for people in Microsoft stacks. There's just a lot here. There's a lot to check out. Um, would love for you to get into the monthly product updates. The other thing that is new, it's live today, which is very exciting, is our new TPRM solution. And so you can find this at clear.com. It looks very different from Conveyor, but it is 100% part of Conveyor. It's a tool we built. Essentially, this is a free agent for third-party risk management. So I know a lot of you do handle kind of both sides of security, where you're working on third-party risk management and also customer trust. You're kind of on both sides of the fence. And if spend a lot of time, manual time researching vendors, trying to figure out are they safe? Uh, this is an agent that does all that research for you. So to get in there, I will share it real quick. Yeah, the website is cool. We had a lot of fun with it. But what you should do is just go to conveyor.com/clear and then request access. There's a little form. And this is free. This is not like an upsell. This is not like freemium. This is not like there's limits. This is like you get in there. If you do TPRM work, we will give you access. If you want to know more about the product. Hey, Marcus from You can watch me again blabbing about what it does. Okay. All right, let's get to the good stuff here. Okay. Very excited. We got Jessie. Jessie, welcome. How are you? There she is.
Hello, hello. I'm so good. Thanks for having me.
You're excited to have you. Yes. So Jesse, you worked at HubSpot for a bit
Yes.
and you did customer trust there. You got recently got a new job. And then we also have Sam. Sam, you want to, there he is.
Hey
So,
everyone.
hello, Sam. So Sam works at Conveyor too, sales engineer. He's going to demo the MCP here. Um, but yeah, let's get into it. Jesse, tell us, I would just love to know a little bit about yourself, right? Like I kind of mentioned it, but yeah, you spent 10 years at HubSpot doing what exactly and what are you up to now? And
Yes.
yeah, just what's the high level Jesse story?
Totally. Yeah. So and Marcus, I think you had put on some slide, maybe it's the one after this, like I'm a mom, I'm a new
Oh,
mom.
there
So
you
that's
go.
been, yes, that's been, thank you so much for this. This is so great. Yeah, I was at HubSpot for over 10 years. Had such a great time there. We'll go into a little bit more depth with that in a moment. I had my first baby 9 months ago, almost exactly. So that has been a huge and exciting aspect of my life recently. Yep, incorporated a lot of AI into the customer trust program at HubSpot. And really, I started at HubSpot in support in about 2016, got really interested in technical email support, which is a great segue into security. Then I landed a seat with the security team at HubSpot and did honestly, really, truly a little bit of everything within the security function because there's so much opportunity. I did some TPRM, just a ton of incident response, email security, and also a lot of operational work as well. And then I was the only person who would get on the phone with sales when we had
Brave,
customers and
brave soul.
prospects. Yeah, totally. Like everyone in the stock was like, not it, to help with the questionnaires. But I love to get on the phone with customers. So didn't necessarily love the questionnaire part. That was not, my favorite thing in the world, but I
Yeah.
loved connecting with our prospects and customers and clarifying technical questions about the security posture at HubSpot, but then also, trying to fill gaps. Like I had kind of done some product management work for internal tools at HubSpot. And so I was really passionate and interested in, hey, we're hearing X and Y from our customers and prospects. We need to implement this particular control and really advocating for managing our risk effectively, right? Implementing additional controls and just maturing our posture in general. And there was a great need, right, for this type of assurance support. I think the business quickly realized, like, whoa, this is a really valuable function that is a unique function. It's something that we really need to invest in. And I was able to scale that team to three incredible contributors. I was the manager, and really worked in that function for over 5 years and scaled it out to where, we were started manual, of course, and it's horrible. And then really scaled to where using Conveyor, we were able to get, I think in the most recent kind of poll that we had done of our last sprint, like 93% of requests were completely touchless, meaning that we didn't have to do anything. Prospects and customers were able to get their questionnaires answered or their one-off questions addressed. So yeah, and that was quite
Yeah.
the journey for sure, but that is a little synopsis. And then
Awesome.
today, I've recently just transitioned to the GRC manager for Analysis Group, which is another company that is headquartered in Boston.
Awesome. Yes, cool. We're lucky to have you. Yeah, your
Thank
experience,
you.
I think, is super relevant, interesting for us to learn from. And yeah, that's what that's what jumps out at me about your story too, is like what you were doing at HubSpot with at the scale you were at, small team, three-person team,
Yep,
a tremendous scale, started from zero automation to where you were automating 93% of security questionnaires and requests that come
yep,
in. Quite the journey. So I think we can learn from you. I think,
yeah,
sorry, there's one other slide I probably wanted to share. Um, you were part of our customer advisory board, which thank you for doing that.
of
We
course.
all got together in New York, which was really fun. This is the dinner we had where Chaz, our CEO, broke a plate. That's how I'll remember it forever. If you're on this webinar and you're interested in joining the cab or like doing events or getting together, email me again, Marcus at conveyor.com. I'd love to hear from you. What we heard from the cab though, were kind of these three things, and I imagine a lot of you are thinking about this, is like AI is rolling out super fast, and furiously. Like sales are getting their hands on AI tools and then using it to respond to security questionnaires, whether they should or should not necessarily.
Yep.
That's challenging. There's just more and more security reviews, questionnaires. Headcount, though, is essentially flat for teams, right? And you're dealing with these challenges of scale. Um, and AI is there. Everybody's trying to use it or using it, but it's not always helping like it should, right? Like everyone has AI, but like how do you really benefit from it? And I think that's another one of the things that I think you guys have done a good job of is like you've kind of gone through that journey and imagine it was pretty hard at first. So, okay. I will stop sharing my screen here. Um, but yeah, I've got some questions for you. But yeah, so I talked about that. Like, when we talk to our cab, we heard the same story from almost everybody, and I bet a lot of the people on the call today. It's like AI is rolling out super fast. It's great in a way because it's creating an opportunity um for scale where you can't physically get on every single call where they need a security expert or answer every single email. So AI can help. But then it's also there at the fingertips of the sales team where they can answer any question and get an answer. So that's scary. But what was your experience like? Like, how when this started to happen, or I know that's kind of a big question,
Hmm.
but like, when did that start for you? How was it? What's your experience with this?
Totally. Great question. It's been kind of wild, but kind of fun also and inspiring. I think I'm in a really fortunate position to be on kind of feeling positive, right, about all of these changes and all these improvements because I think HubSpot and then also the new company that I'm at kind of have the right mindset with AI, which is like we're going to augment, human contributions and kind of a pragmatic, right, approach of like we want to get more efficient and be able to kind of scale using these AI tools and then do more, right? And kind of increase the bar and accomplish and get more done. The first thing that I think is so important to think about is like your core operations have to be in a good place, I think, in order to really as get those efficiency gains and to automate things with AI. And specifically with the questionnaires, like your information has to be documented, it has to be together, it has to be accurate. You also have to have, a reasonable DACY around who owns what and an established workflow, right, for how these questionnaires get to different stakeholders and kind of the different tiers of support and then specifically like where does your team engage, right? So fortunately, we had established that at HubSpot, I think, and we're in a pretty reasonably mature place. And then the second thing that I want to talk about is you need a really great team to this is like a huge project. I think it really is. And you need contributors and operators that are just able to get the vision, understand that AI strategy, and you need technologists on your team that are excited about these tools, can dive into the tools and really like truly understand the trust philosophy and the strategy and the technology should complement that. And that's first of all why I love Conveyor so much because I think you guys get it. The technology shouldn't lead the operations and the strategy ever, in my opinion. It should complement, hey, this is what we're looking to accomplish. So, like for our strategy at HubSpot, right? It was like, our job is to represent HubSpot's security posture so that our customers and prospects can make an informed risk decision. Of course, we want to represent, the posture in the best light possible because this is like oftentimes during sales calls and renewals, et cetera. But ultimately, like that is our job. And then everything kind of cascades from that goal, which is, okay, how can we make this as seamless and as efficient as possible for both our internal customers, so our sales reps, our customer support, managers that work daily with current customers, and for ourselves, we're also a customer, right, of that tool, and then extend it out to our customers and prospects that are like external to the HubSpot environment, because that's where we really see like a huge bang for our buck with just bringing them the information that they need on a silver platter, and they never, fingers crossed, right, have to kind of cross over that barrier to engage with their deal team. And if they
Mm.
do, it's maybe something we don't want published on the Trust Center and just like accessible via automation. And I have to give a huge shout out to my team, particularly Andrew Maloney, who led the entire Conveyor rollout when I was on maternity leave.
Nice. Oh, Andrew.
Yeah, like go Andrew and go Brittany McEwen as well on the team. They just like completely carried this. And that's why I want to emphasize like the quality of your contributors and the alignment with the strategy are like total bedrock to this type of a great project. So that was kind of, I think, two of our main contributors to success. And then obviously finding technology that was complementary, right, to where we needed to go.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. I think there's when we see customers struggle or like, a lot of it is because they haven't done what you're describing, which is like, all right, what's our philosophy and how do we want to handle
Yes.
this? And what is the system we want to build and like and
Right.
why? And are people bought into that? And then you get to and then technically how do we do it? And how are we gonna how is it gonna work? There'll always be challenges, I'm sure, with that. But like if you it's a great point. Like if you don't have sort of the buy-in and like the philosophy and the system there and then the people,
Hmm.
it makes it really hard. And like
Totally.
that's not something, in a way a product can help out with that, but like also it's like you have to that's probably in a lot of ways that's like the harder thing to do, especially at a size company the size of HubSpot, right?
It's a really hard aspect, but I think I love the type of strategic work. Like I just eat that up all day long. And I think the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because it oftentimes like informs efficiency and clarity. And I think, we're seeing that today, right? AI,
Yeah.
the adoption is just shooting through the roof. It's almost now a risk to not use AI. I would make the argument even in particularly with like a customer trust program, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But like if you can constantly orient yourself around, okay, well, this is our strategy, this is where we're going, that's going to inform all of these daily kind of intersections that all of us are encountering. So, and it keeps your team aligned, it keeps them empowered, to really contribute, which is great.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, tell me about, I'm curious about the program as much as you like can share on sort of the nuts and bolts, right? But like I think to me it's really interesting. I think it does seem like there's an evolution that takes place for everyone in terms of like how fully fledged is your like customer trust program and what are the components of it and like literally how does it work, when requests come in, where do they go? But where did you start? I guess you were at HubSpot for a long time. You had other roles and kind of moved into
Yep.
it. If you can take us back in time a little bit, like where did you start and then how did things evolve?
Good question. And Marcus, do you want me to kind of go through even like applications that we were like literally just like the workflows and how those
Yeah, yeah,
evolved?
yeah. Maybe
Great.
the if you want to start with the workflow and kind of like how did that look like? I think it's yeah, it's interesting to hear about like the system that people create and how it changed for you.
Yes, great question. So we were when I was on the security operations center, so I was like basically a security analyst internally at HubSpot. And like I said, literally security spaghetti at the wall, doing everything imaginable under the sun. And things would come in via Jira. Okay. And essentially you could email like security@hubspot.com, I think, and it would just like create a Jira ticket. And, eventually, because I was like excited to hop on these calls with sales, I would kind of be
Mm,
collecting, right, a lot of these assurance related inquiries. And, even this was before HubSpot had our SOC 2 type 2 certification. And, I really had a robust like compliance function, frankly. We didn't have, it was the SOC was like three people, and that was basically our entire security team. And so, a lot of these started to come up. It was quite manual. Things were just coming into Jira, and I was like, what do we do? And, a lot of repeat questions, literally a lot of the same, like, do you have encryption? Do you have this? And do you have that? And we realized that there was a big need for some master document. And this is, if you go to HubSpot's Trust Center today, we have this like biblical document for better or for worse called the Security and Compliance Overview. Someone named Ryan Stinson on our old security team had initially created that, but it needed a lot of work, just like updating, making sure that things were accurate, copy editing. So I took that on. And that was kind of our first line of defense. And people loved that. And so that's a really small initial step towards,
Yeah.
whoa,
Huge
no,
at
we're
the
not going
time,
to
I'm sure,
answer all
though.
these one-offs.
Yeah,
Take this instead.
huge improvement though, right at the time, right? This is like years and years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, interesting. Okay.
Yes. And so then after that, I think my manager at the time, she was like an incredible manager, director of security. Now she's a CISO. She was like, whoa, this is really a critical function for the business. Like you are driving revenue, Jessie. And I was like, I am like, oh yeah, that, and this was like totally all, I just was the type of contributor where I wanted to take any hairy problem that arose because I saw it as a learning opportunity. And so she was like, I think you actually should manage this function. And I was getting a ton more exposure to like leading calls with CISOs and CTOs. And so, yes, we were able to, initially, I was not the manager and we hired folks on to assist me. And then ultimately, I was promoted to manager. Around that time, we moved into ServiceNow, which, certainly has its flaws, but I think is more beneficial for this type of request work than Jira, at least in my experience. There's trade-offs, right, to both platforms, but we moved into ServiceNow. It was managed within HubSpot. So we were able to like customize the intake form. We were on the same table with our like really close stakeholders, which included the legal support team as well and deal desk. And so from there, we, I think, launched our first trust center. I don't remember the year, some years ago. And it was with a different vendor. And that was really our first, like, woo, because I came to the realization like we cannot do everything manually. This is just going to bury us. Like we're not able to create great resources to make, you have to make a compelling case internally if you're like, hey, we need ISO, right? Or we need SOC 2 Type 2. People want metrics, they want a nice memo. And we just had such incredibly high volume at the time
Mhm.
that I led a robust project to establish the operations, the initial operating model of the customer assurance program at HubSpot, which is we created our first trust center and then we essentially said, hey, sales reps, and CSMs and account managers, send all your people to the trust center. That is the
Yeah.
first thing you do. Do not come to our team, right? And then I partnered with our incredible sales engineering function. Shout out to sales engineering at HubSpot because they're fabulous to create kind of a security specialist group. So ultimately, my team became the fourth tier of support. And that, really led us into being able to actually work on projects, create really great assets that, provide more assurance. And that, then led to us exploring other trust center vendors and
Mhm.
I'll kind of pause there because I think that's a good stopping point probably.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's it's great. It's good to hear how you're in it. And then yeah, what with Conveyor, I guess, when you implemented Conveyor, like how did that help you with scale and what did that look like? And then I can say you've been doing some cool stuff with the MCP and layering in AI kind of on top of what you've done with Conveyor. So I can
Yes,
save that question, but yes, curious how Conveyor then gets in the mix of the system.
totally. This ties back to the strategy of our program, which is efficiency gains, seamlessness, and ease of use for our customers is paramount, period. And we at the time had used Lupio, which I was really not satisfied with. And we also, had a different trust center vendor, which I was souring on a little bit because I didn't see them as AI first, unfortunately. And, I was like, we got to jump on this because this is, I mean, right, LLMs in general are very well suited to answering questionnaires.
Of course, yeah.
Like, come on. So I was like, what? I was like, what are we doing with both Lupio and then with, with some other trust center vendors, and that kicked off our search. And then actually we got connected with, my gosh, and I think it's at Figma.
Hmm.
There's a manager at Figma, but I forget his name, but he was awesome. And they used Conveyor, and someone internal at HubSpot messaged me, like a new director we had. Alan, shout out to Alan. And he had said, hey, check out Conveyor, and I have someone who uses them and they're really happy. So we had a meeting with this great manager, and he had his new baby on the call, which obviously is like a huge bonus. And just, that was a great experience too, because it was validated at the start and we had some trust created because it's really hard, right? When you're depending on this vendor and maybe things aren't turning out as they were promised, which totally can happen at times with the roadmap, then you need an alternative. And so he was really able to sing Conveyor's praises. We evaluated Conveyor with, I believe, a couple other vendors. We also did a bake-off of like, should we build this internally or should we go with a vendor? Um, and
Yep.
happy to elaborate on that if we want to, but then we ultimately made the transition over to Conveyor. And that was quite the project, to get Conveyor up and running too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. And then, yeah, I mean, just, in Conveyor and with, I want to make sure we have some time to show the MCP, but like, with your setup, I guess, was there anything that it really helped you achieve initially, or like what, it was like after, because there's time for implementation too.
Yeah.
I think, was there anything where it's like, hey, this is, and I'm just in the spirit of trying to help other people be successful with Conveyor and learn from what you did. Like, was there anything you think that kind of unlocked some of the scale that you achieved with Conveyor and getting to that 93% touchless number?
Yes. Got to have a good repo of questions and answers and content.
Yep.
Super critical because that's going to allow you to kind of flesh things out initially. And the ultimate goal for us was I was like, I just want it to work, right? Like we don't want to be
Yeah. It's a
fiddling and
good goal.
fooling
Yes.
with the
Yes.
questionnaires. That's like a huge pain. And for sales reps, they don't want to deal with that, nor should they, right? So that was, I think, a huge contributor to our success. And then also, um, just having, like I said, Andrew is the one at HubSpot that led this launch when I was out on maternity leave, having people that are detail oriented, really communicating this well within the organization so that people are bought in and selling the vision, I think is also super, super key because you need to partner with your go-to-market teams because they're the ones that are going to funnel traffic over. And I think Andrew did a great job of that, and I had tried to do that as well when I left and when I came back from leave so that we had sales reps, in there and using the tool like on the first week of launch and they loved it. They love it. And same thing with sales engineers. I think we also did kind of some trial testing with the sales engineering team. And what I would say is if you're someone that's on this webinar and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to automate stuff, like what, and maybe you're a team of one or you have a lean team as well, like just go for a V1. Like you just got to launch it, right? And I think ensuring the information is accurate is a non-negotiable, but having this in place is going to be certainly better than folks like manually completing things or going with a tool that does not have kind of the same AI forward focus as Conveyor does. Because we just saw such a benefit in questionnaire completion with Conveyor's technology versus other vendors. And that was like our teams just loved it. And I love it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, credit to you all too, because yes, I know how hard it can be to get a big global sales team like that to sort of do something or adhere to something new. And
Yep.
like you were saying, that's more about like the system you built versus the technology. Conveyor can handle that and can handle that scale, which is great, proud of. But yeah, that's tough internally. So okay. We want to try and keep this pretty tight so we get people along and have time for some questions. So I'm gonna pull up Sam here. We're talking. Thank you for that, Jesse. It was awesome to hear. I think
Of
just around
course.
like the span of your story and kind of how it works. But a lot of what, yeah, I think it's impressive about what you did was sort of bring Conveyor to this program to really get to that 93% touchless. So like 93% of these questions and questionnaires that come in, you're not touching. And like that's possible with AI when it's done well. The other thing we have is the MCP server, which a lot of our customers are putting to use to do that. We call it the AI connector because essentially that's what it is. But being able to take that, um, plug it into your take Conveyor via the MCP server, plug it into Claude or OpenAI or whatever. It's part of sort of a little bit of a larger strategy at Conveyor we call Conveyor Everywhere, where essentially we don't really care if you use our web interface, right? Like it doesn't matter to us if Conveyor is living inside of Salesforce or in Slack, or you're using it inside of your AI connector. A lot of the times it can be so much more powerful for a company because that's where your salespeople live, or like, your security team, sure, they can open up Conveyor and get into it, but you're really able to achieve a lot of scale when Conveyor lives inside of these other tools via integrations or APIs or the MCP server. So what Sam's going to show to, I'll shut up in a second, Sam, but what Sam's going to show us and talk about a little bit is that. And like, if you're on the call and you haven't used the MCP server, the AI connector, like now is a great time to make the case for it, figure it out technically, understand what it can do, because it's very, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share my screen and we can kind of go through some examples. It was kind of hard to come up with like what are the things we want to show in this because it can kind of do a lot of different things with your conveyor data. If you look at our API reference on our documentation, for instance, there's a lot of different endpoints there that are all wrapped up and exposed through this MCP as well. So whether it's analytics, searching knowledge, updating knowledge, seeing activity on your trust center, all those types of things you can do. So we'll just show a few examples of different things like that.
All right, and if anybody has any questions or wants Sam to slow down or clarify something or dive deeper, put it in the chat. Love to hear what we can make this as interactive as people want while he's going through it.
Absolutely. I'll just start off with a simple question.
And
Maybe
sorry,
maybe
I already got a question, Sam. All right, so this is your Claude, and it's connected to Conveyor via the MCP, right? That's what
cor
we're okay. That's where all right.
correct. Yeah. And if you're in Claude, you can go to the customize thing here. Gosh, where is it? Connectors, and then Conveyor MCP, and it'll do an OAuth connection. So it'll just check that you're logged into Claude in your browser, and it'll just connect like that. So it doesn't require API keys and things like that. It's pretty straightforward. So I guess if you're logged into both Conveyor in your browser and Claude, that'll work out. But yeah, one thing you can do is ask. So say I'm a salesperson, I get a question from a prospect, and I don't know the answer, and I want to ask, do we encrypt data at rest and in transit? What Conveyor is going to do, what Claude's going to do, is it's going to see this question and it's going to recognize that this is like a security type question. And so it's going to look for tools. The MCP comes with like instructions for when it should be used. So here you can see Claude found the Conveyor Ask Single Question tool. It's going to use that to ask that question, checking your knowledge base with your official verified answers and get it back to you. Um, so kind of a useful tool if you don't want, let's say, your salespeople to just find some random document or see what someone said in Slack one time and go off of that, but actually reference your validated information.
Yeah, and this is look at that. Good job. I feel like Opus 5 is a little bit slower and sassier than previous models. Smart,
Yes.
uh and then this is right, you can what's cool about this, all the things you said, but also like you didn't say, "Hey, ask Conveyor this question." It just knew. It said, "Okay, this is a security question. I'm going to find Conveyor's connected. Conveyor's going to have this information." I think that's very cool. And then also our enterprise roles and permissions can be used to sort of control this. Like, what can a salesperson do versus an admin versus someone on the security team? There's customization there that we have built that into the API that transfers over to the MCP. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So I have a full admin privileges for our Conveyor instance, so I can do things like update knowledge through the MCP, but
But
other roles
salesperson
don't.
can't update
Yeah,
knowledge. Right, right. Yeah. Okay.
exactly. So it'll respect the same roles and permissions you've designed in Conveyor because you're connecting through Conveyor to Claude, so it respects that. But yeah, this looks like good information. It's telling me what it found in the knowledge base, etc. So let's do something maybe a little different. I'm going to do one that may take a little longer, so we may switch away while it works, but I'll say, how many questionnaires have we started in the last month? Show me a graph of the daily counts. And so I think this type of use case can be really useful because it's pulling all of the analytics that you have in Conveyor of how you are using Conveyor. So one workflow I've talked about with people is, okay, if I want to make a deck to present to my manager on the value of this team and how many questionnaires we're getting through, maybe how much faster we are now that we have Conveyor, and how the SLA is trending over time for getting back to the salespeople who need this information. That's the type of analytics you could do in Conveyor through the MCP like this. Um, I think one interesting thing to think about is how would you do this outside of Conveyor? And sure, you got the APIs, you could download all the data, load it into your business intelligence tool, uh, write a SQL query, make a graph, all of that. And that was possible before, but now I can just use natural language, let it cook, and then come back to a graph afterwards.
What do you think of this one, Jesse? I'm curious as a conveyor user, and analytics are tough, right? Because like we have some analytics, they're not the best part of conveyor, but also like what people want from analytics can be very custom, or like you might have a certain way of reporting. Like I imagine you've done this the hard way, Jesse. What do you think of being able to like have Claude as a friend to help you kind of build
Oh,
some reporting?
I'm obsessed. I'm such a, we didn't even talk about my reporting obsession. So yeah, I mean, this is huge, huge priority and like hugely beneficial that you guys have added this in. It's great.
Yeah, and what it can do too is like, I mean, it looks like it's gonna build you a visualization here too right now, right? Which is like just super fun. And like to be able to, you're not just getting the data, that's one thing. But then you also have to put it in a deck that you've got to like share with someone. So now I'm building decks and it's like just the power of Claude here is really, really helpful. But obviously it can't do this without being connected to the
Mhm.
source of what runs your program in Conveyor.
Yeah. And one thing we haven't done here, I'm not connected to, let's say, Salesforce in this Claude instance, but you could do that. You can connect to other tools that are offering MCP servers, and you could combine this data together. So it might not just be the number of questionnaires, but the total ARR associated with those questionnaires that Claude could pull together from different places. And there we go. We got a chart. Yeah, and one interesting thing it does in Conveyor, if you're already Conveyor users, there's this test functionality. This is our demo instance, and so I'm creating a lot of tests to show people how it works. And this went ahead and said, okay, some of these are real, some of these are tests, and it kind of differentiated that. Um, but it sure shows you that we don't do anything on the weekends, which makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But
we
you could
love
do
that.
over, love that. But over a year, maybe you could see this trending up or down, depending on how things are going.
Cool. Okay. So then one-off questions, reporting, wonderful use cases, very clear. What else do you got for us, Sam? Is there a third one?
Yeah, I was thinking more on the trust center side of things. So I'll do who subscribed to our trust center today. And so the subscriptions are if people log into your trust center and click subscribe, they'll get notifications. Maybe you have an announcement of something new coming out. Those people get emailed. So earlier today, I went in and signed up for this, subscribed with these aliases. And so it says, okay, these three people subscribed today. You could think of this for a real account. It would be, okay, there's 10 new prospects that went to our trust center today and subscribed. So it's an intent signal. Maybe you reach out to them. But let's go a little deeper and say, what documents did this user interact with? And what questions did he ask the agent? And so for those of you who are aware of this, but there's an AI agent in Conveyor trust centers that you can ask natural language questions to. It can pull documents right from your knowledge base to return it to them. Also answer questions like, do you have a SOC 2 or do you encrypt data? But I might want to know what types of questions are people asking, maybe to figure out, do I have the right data shared in my trust center that people are looking for? And in this case, this user, this was me earlier today, looked at two documents, system diagram, background check process, and then I asked it a baseball question, the agent declined. So that's another feature of the AI agent is it's in the trust center is it's grounded in your knowledge. It's not going to make stuff up, not going to answer, it's not going to answer either what does a normal company do in this situation. It's just saying what does the data say right here that answers this question.
Very cool. Yeah, which is, one of the challenges of a non-purpose built tool or just trying to, build some of this with Claude or ChatGPT or whatever is that it will try to answer those questions as much as it can. So it's nice. I hope hopefully comforting when for folks who work in security when you see the agent decline a question that it shouldn't be answering.
Yeah.
Awesome. The if people have questions, these are a great time. Just I'll keep asking until we get one. But ask a question to Sam, or we can cover anything, even if it doesn't feel related. I think one of the other use cases that was exciting for me too was knowledge base updating, where if there's it can be a pain in the ass to sort of update your knowledge base. Where if you change something, you switch. I think your example, Sam, was like you changed where you host your data from AWS or something like that. Like that can mean a lot of work to go in and change that manually in the knowledge base. So you can now use Claude or something else to update your Conveyor knowledge base. Is that right?
Yeah, and I ran that earlier today. Let me see. Yeah, hosting migration. I wanted to see, okay, if we were moving from AWS to Azure, how many curated Q&As would we need to update?
Yeah.
And it found them for me. Um, so yeah, I think that could help you find what you need to change. You can also change things directly if you have the correct permissions in Conveyor through the MCP. And we could even do an example of that. When was our most recent pen test? And so maybe it'll get the response and I'll just pretend like it's the wrong answer and we can update it. August 12th. That's not right. Update that Q&A to be for August 10th, 2026. I'll say not to be for, but to say, maybe that's better. So again, if this is just changing one Q&A, probably easy enough to do it yourself in Conveyor. But if you were, say, migrating from AWS to Azure, there's a dozen or 50 Q&As. That would take a lot of time manually. So that's where the MCP really shines. But it did this at least. It said it's updated to August 10th and it's verified.
And I'll put the link to the docs for our MCP server in the chat right here. And this is included for Conveyor customers. This is not a upgrade or anything like that. This is just something you should try out. And I think there's internally there's a lot of I know it's not as simple as all right, I'm going to connect the MCP server and now this is how we're going to do it. I know there's a lot to figure out. With how your company probably uses Claude or how to connect it and all of that sort of thing. We can help with both of those. I think we have learned a lot already from our customers around how this is working at companies. So we'd love to talk about that. And then we can call up people like Jessie and say, what would you do, Jessie? And then get her advice too. But then technically, obviously, we can help you set it up too and structure it in a way that can work for your company. But this is really cool, Sam. Anything else that you're excited about here?
I mean, I think I'm hearing people use it for different things all the time. So I feel like I'll be
Yeah.
surprised, every day going forward. Um, I do think being able to connect to your Conveyor data along with every other data source that you have connected to your AI tool is going to be really powerful just to connect that, if you're connected to Gong, to be able to, if someone
Yeah.
asked a question in a sales call you're on, and then you can figure out, do we have that knowledge in our knowledge base, or which document should I share with them to answer that? I think that's a good use case too. No, I think it's just a green field. People can do a lot of different stuff with it.
Yeah. Jesse, any thoughts on the MCP server? Anything you think is interesting or cool or that you would
I love
recommend
it.
for people?
I
Yeah.
think it's great. Yeah, I think again, this is one of the reasons why we did decide on a vendor instead of building this type of functionality ourselves, because this is just, in my humble opinion, it's too much overhead, you know, as a feature request, right, for your own internal kind of homegrown like questionnaire GPT to rely on that type of functionality to do some of this really, really cool stuff, which I think is like really necessary and extremely helpful if you're looking for like efficiency gains that are powered by AI, right? So yeah, greenfield, very exciting, and implement it. It's awesome. Love it.
Cool. All right. Wonderful. Well, we'll give everybody some time to go to their next meeting and everything. I will say, if you haven't, I mentioned at the top, conveyor.com/clear. That's our new free TPRM agent, and you should check it out. I think people are really going to love it. It's very powerful. And then also, yes, if you don't have the MCP connected and want to talk about it, talk to your CSM, email me and Chris. We'll get you set up. But yeah, Sam, thank you for the demo. That was killer. Jesse, thank you for joining us. It was really nice to have you spend some time with us, learn from you. Excited for you in your next role and those wonderful Prudential Center lunches you'll be having.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
All right. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll do this again soon. That's it. All right.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.